Hey guys, good afternoon and welcome to the 330 Sports Show. My name is Justin Coffin. Today is Tuesday, December 7th, I think.
Yeah, 7th. You're right.
December 7th,
That's
yes. 2021. We are broadcasting live downtown at Youngstown Studios. Check out their Facebook and YouTube pages. No phone lines today. We'll get back to those shortly, but make sure to comment if you're watching, and we can interact during the show. Lots of topics today. First of all, Joe, if you don't mind putting up this first graphic as soon as it loads, I just want to give a quick shout out to the Ursuline Football Irish. They last Friday were in the state finals. Unfortunately, came up 1 point short. They were up, I believe it was like 28-7 in the second half, and ended up falling short. The team they were playing had a 2 point conversion with less than a minute to go to take a 1 point lead. Ursuline unfortunately falls 29-28, but a great season for the Ursuline Irish. All their players, coaches should be proud. I know Ed O'Neill, probably out in LA, was checking in and proud of his Al Bundy, former school doing well in the Ohio State high school football playoffs. So congratulations to Ursuline again on a great season. Normally, you guys know, if you watch the show, we start with the Cleveland Browns. They were on a bye week last week. We are going to get to the Cleveland Browns, but first I'd like to start with some college football. It was a huge college football weekend. So first of all, championship weekend, we had all the big games. We had the first one kicking off at noon was the Big 12 championship game. You had Baylor and Oklahoma State going at it. Baylor gets the win and wins the Big 12 by the skin of their teeth. Literally 1 inch won that game. Oklahoma State was stuffed short on 4th and goal at the pylon. The running back could just not get there. And, Baylor wins the Big 12 title. And we'll move on. We'll talk about the bowl matchups coming up in next week's show. Utah in the Pac-12 title game just beat up Oregon for the second time in 3 weeks. And we're going to talk about the matchup. Utah winning the Pac-12 will now face the Ohio State Buckeyes in the Rose Bowl on January 1st. So we'll talk about that in a future show. We'll talk about that matchup and maybe a little bit today. Unfortunately for us Buckeye fans, the Michigan Wolverines win the Big Ten. They just absolutely throttled Iowa 42-3. I think anyone who played in that game, whether it was Michigan State, whether it was Ohio State or Michigan, was going to beat Iowa. They were just the Eastern, even if it was Penn State, the Eastern side of the Big Ten was just so much better than the West this year. But congratulations. I hate to say it, but congratulations to Michigan. They did earn it. And we'll talk about what lies ahead for them in a minute too. Congratulations goes out to the University of Pitt. University of Pittsburgh. Pitt beats up on Wake Forest in the ACC championship. Pitt moves to 11-2. So a great season. They're led by Pat Narduzzi, who is the head coach, and he is from right here in Youngstown, Ohio. Also, I believe an Ursuline Irish grad. And finally, Alabama rolls Georgia in the SEC title game. That was a matchup. Georgia was number 1 at the time, had pretty much just beaten up on everyone with their dominant defense throughout the season. But Alabama puts up a big number and just beats up on Georgia, which kind of flip-flopped them in the poll. Alabama moves to 1, Georgia moves to 3. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. And the AAC championship, which is the American Athletic Conference, the Cincinnati Bearcats, who outlast the Houston Cougars, they are in the college football playoffs. So hats off to Luke Fickell and the Cincinnati Bearcats, who get it done. They will match up with Alabama in the playoffs. We're going to talk about that in just a little bit. Also, conference championship games. Louisiana Ragin' Cajuns win the Sun Belt. Utah State wins the Mountain West. UTSA wins Conference USA, and Northern Illinois wins the MAC over Kent State. They just kind of beat up Kent State in Detroit this past weekend. So one more look real quick at the winners. Again, Alabama, Michigan, Baylor, Utah, Pitt all win the Power 5 conferences. Cincinnati, Louisiana, Utah State, UTSA, and Northern Illinois all win their conferences this past weekend. So they move on, we move on, and now the next thing we have to look forward to is the college football playoff. So the college football playoff will pit the Alabama Crimson Tide versus the Cincinnati Bearcats in a 1-4 matchup. And then you have Michigan, who moves up to the number 2 spot, or actually holds strong at the number 2 spot. Alabama jumped them. And then they will face the Georgia Bulldogs, who are in the 3 spot. So if I had to put my money on it, it looks like it could be a rematch from this past weekend of Alabama versus Georgia. But, you know, I've heard a lot of people say, oh, Ohio State being in the Big Ten, you should root for Michigan. That is never, ever the case. If you are a Buckeye fan, I don't care about conference loyalty. If it is your absolute rival, you never want them to win anything. So I hope Georgia just blows the doors off of Michigan. And I will, however, be rooting for Cincinnati over Alabama. That'd be kind of cool to see a Cincinnati-Georgia matchup. And they actually played last year in a bowl game, and Cincinnati gave Georgia all they could handle. So that should be interesting. So let's talk next about we do a top 5 list for each Tuesday. So I'm going to give you my top 5 best college football offensive players, most important offensive players this year, and the top 5 most important defensive players from this past 2021 season in college football. So the Heisman finalists were just announced. It is going to be Bryce Young of Alabama. It's going to be Kenny Pickett of Pitt, CJ Stroud of Ohio State, all 3 quarterbacks, and then Aiden Hutchinson, the defensive end from Michigan. So those 4 players will be in New York City. I think it's a foregone conclusion that Bryce Young is probably going to win this award, but coaches will tell you, programs will tell you, it's always good to get that recognition in New York City and get your program spotlighted a little bit, especially for a guy like Kenny Pickett from Pitt. He deserves to be there. But let me go over my list of top 5 most important offensive players, and here's why I chose these guys. So Bryce Young, obviously a freshman, redshirt freshman at Alabama, comes in. Alabama is not the juggernaut it usually is this year. The running game has not been great. Their offensive line has been inconsistent. They do have some good receivers, but Bryce Young has really taken that program to the next level. And Alabama just, continually puts in, player after player in the Heisman Trophy, conversation. I have Desmond Ridder as one of my top 5 most important players on offense for college football. Desmond Ridder is the quarterback for Cincinnati. Goes into South Bend, beats Notre Dame. The Cincinnati Bearcats, you could argue, would not be where they are without Desmond Ridder. So I have him up there. Kenny Pickett. I have Kenny Pickett in the top 5 because I don't think Pitt maybe even has a winning record without Kenny Pickett at quarterback. I think he has bumped his draft stock up to possibly being a first-round quarterback, if not at the very least a second-round quarterback in the NFL. He has put up some really good numbers for the University of Pittsburgh, and I think he will. I think he's going to do really well for them going forward. They play Michigan State in the bowl game, in a New Year's Six bowl game, which brings me to the next player on the list, Kenneth Walker III. Kenneth Walker is the only running back I have on this list for offensive players. Kenneth Walker got shut down by the Buckeyes. That was his only really, really bad game, but he handled Michigan. He had his best game against Michigan this year in that upset win versus the Wolverines. And then I have the Ohio State quarterback, CJ Stroud, on the list. CJ Stroud is, again, a lot of people could argue Ohio State is now maybe a system where you can plug and play, but CJ Stroud had to go out there, get the work done. And you could see he is a different quarterback from the beginning of the year to where he is now. And he certainly did not lose you that Michigan game. The defense did not hold its part. And you could argue, too, he has the best receivers in the country. Yes, that may be true, but you still got to get those guys the ball. So CJ Stroud, Kenneth Walker III, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder, and Bryce Young are my 5 most important offensive players. I'm going to switch now to my 5 most important defensive players. Now, defense doesn't get the love in the Heisman Trophy as offense does. However, if you're talking about the best players on the best teams, you have to talk defense because Aiden Hutchinson for Michigan stunk last year. They were bad. But Aiden Hutchinson didn't take the field last year because he sat out with the COVID-19 protocols. He just decided to opt out last year. He comes back. They turn their whole defensive scheme around. He leads the country in sacks, I believe, or right there towards the top. He dominated in the Ohio State game, and he's the reason I think they won that Ohio State game. So Aiden Hutchinson makes my list. I think he finishes in the top 3 of the Heisman votes with what he has done. I'm going to also put Will Anderson. He is a linebacker from Alabama. He is going to be, not this year because he's only a sophomore, but next year in the 2023 draft. And I know that's way far ahead, but he's going to be the first pick of that draft. He is that good. He is a defensive end linebacker, kind of in the mold of a TJ Watt. Not quite a Chase Young 4-down or hand down kind of pass rusher guy, but he can get out, get after the quarterback, but he can also stop the run game. He can also cover, and he can do a lot of things to help your team. And he is going to be a difference maker in the NFL. The guy that was probably talked about the most this year in college football on the defensive side of the ball is an absolutely monster of a human being. Jordan Davis, a defensive tackle for Georgia. He's going to be in the top 10 of the NFL draft this year. He is a run stopper. I mean, I don't know his actual weight, but I'd have to guess he's in the 360 range just based on his size. He is an absolute monster in the run game for Georgia, who, up until this past Saturday had the best defense in the country. I'm going to also put his teammate on there, Nakobi Dean. Nakobi Dean is a linebacker. Georgia also has a bunch of good secondary guys, but I'm going to put Nakobi Dean in there because I think he can kind of do a little bit of everything. He's a little bit of a hybrid. He can drop in pass coverage. He can also get after the quarterback and stop the run. And then finally, his name is Antoine Gardner, but he goes by the nickname Sauce. And he has not given, I think he is a true junior. He's played all 3 years at Cincinnati, but he has not given a touchdown pass in his entire career at cornerback for the University of Cincinnati. And he is a key player and a key reason why they are in the college football playoff. And it's kind of funny because they're the best team by ranking right now in the state of Ohio, which is a little strange. It's a little weird to see Cincinnati and Michigan in the playoff and not Ohio State, but they earned it. They deserve it, and they're there. So let's now talk real quickly about the Buckeyes. We're not going to spend a whole lot of time on this because we're going to have some preview shows before the game, but Ohio State finished number 6 in the college football playoff rankings. Notre Dame finished 5 behind those other 4 schools we already talked about, and they are going to take on the Utah Utes. And Joe, when you hear the word Utes, does that make you think of anything? Any particular movie from the 90s? Maybe starring what's his name? Joe Pesci?
No.
Marissa Tomei. Remember the judge? He was in Pet Sematary. So my cousin Vinny, he's like, well, I'm going to defend these 2 Utes. And he's like, Did you just say Ute? So they are playing the Utah Utes, who that is their mascot.
What is it?
So I believe it's maybe the tribe that represents that area.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe I'll spend some more time looking
Maybe
into
it's some
that.
slang.
But
maybe we could just abuse somebody's nationality. I don't know.
yeah. I don't want to talk poorly of a college football team or a tribe, nonetheless. But it looks
You
like
say tribe. I think it's guardian. Like
oh boy. Yeah, opened up a box of worms there, can of worms. But I don't know. We'll talk more about the Utah Utes later. But Ohio State will play Utah on January 1st in the Rose Bowl, which, if you're not playing in the college football playoff, the Rose Bowl is literally the best thing you can do besides that. So,
well, growing up, I always thought the Rose Bowl was the championships. I didn't know any better because it was such a high profile game.
Yeah. And it's always, when it's not in the playoff mix, like they rotate the bowl games, which are the semifinals and the championship game. But it's in that rotation. But even when it's not, it still feels special. It's in Pasadena, which is outside of LA. It's got the mountains in the background. The game starts and it's sunny. It ends and it's dark. It's just so pretty. I think it's the San Gabriel Mountains, if I'm not mistaken. But it's just so pretty there. The way they design the field and it's like truly the word pageantry goes along with this game, and there's the whole parade. And that is definitely a bucket list item for me. If anyone has any tickets in the next 3 weeks they want to send my way, I will not turn them down. I started looking. I was just curious, and it's not ridiculous. It's not gonna you're not gonna have to mortgage your house, but the tickets were, the minimum ones I saw were $575 a piece, so they're pretty pricey.
Yeah,
I
would guess 3,000.
I think for a really, really good seat, you're probably in that range. So we shall see. I'm sure through the universities they might cut some people some deals or whatever. So anyone, I am an Ohio State graduate. Anyone in the future that listens to this in the next couple weeks, I'll give you my cell phone number.
They don't float the alumni any special tickets?
Oh, well, I don't know if I'm important enough alumni to be considered. I think they give you, the alumni, it's probably about 100,000 seat stadium. They'll probably give, 15,000 to Utah, or 10,000 to Utah, and 10,000 to Ohio State, and 80,000 are out there between corporate sponsors and stuff like that. And I'm sure those tickets will then get sold on the secondary market. I don't exactly know how it works, but I'm smart enough to know I'm probably not getting handed tickets from the Alumni Association, although I have made donations before. So we'll see.
And you're a big supporter. I mean, that's one thing. You're a public personality. You're an alumni, and you've donated.
Let's caption that. We'll
put it out there.
Well, yeah, we'll send that out.
Twitter hashtag.
Yeah, exactly.
Let Justin play.
I don't want to play. I just want to go. I don't even have to be. I'll be in the last row, whatever. So,
all right. The weather in Pasadena is probably horrible. It's
probably gross. Yeah. It's probably not like this beautiful weather we have today. So a couple quick notes on Ohio State before we move on. Unfortunately, the transfer portal is a strange thing now in college football. There is the one-time transfer rule now. So any player for any reason can transfer at any time. It used to only be a graduate, a player that has graduated then can move on without punishment. Before, if they were an undergrad player, they would have to sit out a season. And sometimes there was rules preventing them to transfer in conference and things like that. Now it's sort of a free-for-all. So if you look before the season started back in the spring, Jameson Williams, who is Alabama's best receiver, transferred from Ohio State. He's going to be a first-round draft pick. He is going to play in the playoffs. He's going to be a first-round draft pick. So congratulations to him. But unfortunately, that's one Ohio State lost. But when you have the receivers the Buckeyes have, you're gonna lose some guys in the transfer portal. I'm gonna talk about the other guys real quick first, but Jack Miller, quarterback, he's from Arizona. He transferred out. He was going to be the third or fourth string quarterback. It just makes sense for him. He can go to back home in Arizona or, a school out west and probably start right away for a lot of those teams. Craig Young, who's a linebacker safety, nice player, but didn't see the field much, didn't start at all this year. Limited amount of snaps. So he's going to transfer somewhere. He's going to probably start right away for a good team somewhere. And then in season, we lost Kayvon Pope. He was the one that kind of threw the fit on the sideline earlier on. And then Dallas Gant just wasn't getting the playing time and transferred out. So those are the guys we lost. But the big name, obviously, is Quinn Ewers. Quinn Ewers reclassified. He was supposed to still be a senior in high school this season. Reclassified in the last week of fall camp for Ohio State, comes in, and then let's talk about his Buckeye career and what he did at Ohio State. So let's go over these Ohio State stat lines for Quinn Ewers. So 1 game played, which was the Michigan State game, took 2 snaps at the very end of the game, handed the ball off twice. This kid, now this is over 3 years, keep this in mind, but $1.4 million in future NIL deals. He signed an exclusive agreement with his trading card company. So, that he also advertises for some kombucha drink, which is out of Texas. And I believe he got a car out of the deal from one of the Columbus car companies. So I always wonder though, like now, and I'm sure there's some clauses, like, does he have to give that car back? Is that his? Did he do everything he needed to? Now, I don't know how all these NIL deals work and stuff, but with legalities, I think the one thing the NCAA has control on is they cannot control the NIL, or companies cannot control the NIL based on performance. So it's like you're saying this is what you're worth to our company, but we need you to go out and score 4 touchdowns today, So it's not going to change the way guys play because they're playing for more incentive. So I don't know how that all works, but to me, it was crazy.
$1.4 million in exposure for taking a guy that only played that much on the field.
He was in Columbus for 4 months. 4 months. And again, that's broken up over a few years. He is from Texas. And again, the 17, 18-year-old kid coming into college, probably not mentally ready for college. I don't care how good you are at playing football. And this kid will be in the NFL someday. He will. But, you come in, you probably don't know many people. You're probably going to practice, maybe going to class and going to, doing whatever. And then you're probably hanging out in your dorm room or your apartment or whatever. And, that's it. It's like, it's a lot. It's probably not ideal for a lot, that type of situation. Right. So I don't know. I don't fault him for going back home. This was kind of like a messy situation coming in, but you don't want to turn away one of the best players in the country. You're not going to say no to him because that could have future implications for future recruits. So, it's a shame, but I bet you he's going to end up at Texas Tech, Texas A&M, or the University of Texas. So, one other change is we're not going to go through this entire list. I did this on last Thursday's show, but this list, if you're watching, is the list of college coaches, Division I FBS coaches that have changed places. It's insane. And to that list, we now add Bronco Mendenhall, who's out at Virginia. Mario Cristobal leaves Oregon, goes to Miami. That's his alma mater, so can't blame him for that. Manny Diaz is out at Miami. And now Brent Venables, who is Clemson's defensive coordinator, now goes and takes Oklahoma's job, which was left by Lincoln Riley, who left for USC. And then, Clay Helton left, but now he's at Georgia Southern. It's a whole coaching carousel. So it goes around and around and around, and we'll see how it all lands. But craziness, it has to be the most ever. but in my opinion, I don't know, but if somebody out there knows, let me know. I want to make one other note too. This is a smaller school, but the University of Presbyterian or Presbyterian University, their head coach, who is very analytics driven, very different, very outside the box thinking. I just want to share, like, he ended up resigning his position, so he will not be back. I borrowed this story from The Athletic. But here are some interesting stats through 11 games. His name is Kevin Kelly, by the way. They did not attempt a field goal all season. Oh, and by the way, they started the year 2-0, winning 84-43 and 68-3, and then proceeded to lose the next 9 games. But they did not attempt a field goal all season. They punted only 13 times total, which, again, that is in 11 games. They attempted 48 onside kicks, 48 in 11 games. So a little over 4 a game. And they went for it on 4th down 84 times, which, again, that's roughly about 8, 7.5, 8 times a game.
In the whole course of watching professional or college football, how many onside kicks have you ever seen successful?
Successful? Definitely not 84. I'm probably, 15, 20, 25, maybe.
Maybe in the total years and decades of watching.
And now, it's a little bit easier in college to convert them because of the rules. You're allowed to have as many people on one side of the line. In the NFL, it's like they're doing it for safety reasons. You're only allowed to have 5 and 5 or something. But yeah, the percentages aren't very good, regardless of NFL or college. I think in the NFL, it's less than 10%, and in college it's less than 20%. So
I hope they got a couple of
if you kicked it 84 times and got it no times, it shouldn't be resigned, it should have been fired. But hopefully they were practicing that. But your kicker better be good at onside kicks, because it sounds like he doesn't have to worry about field goals or extra points or
maybe
anything
that's really
else.
They couldn't find an accurate field goal kicker, so they just found some guy who could do some onside kicks.
Exactly. So I just thought that was interesting. A little outside the box. I wanted to share that. So real quick, just a change from we're going to move on from college football here in a minute, but I do want to promo a show we're going to do next week. We are going to do our 4th movie series installment. We've broken down the movie Groundhog Day, Happy Gilmore, and Varsity Blues. I like to go sports movie, non-sports movie, sports movie, non-sports movie. So our non-sports movie that we're going to be doing, although Michael Jordan, cardboard cutout Michael Jordan, was in that movie, so it kind of counts. We're going to be breaking down the Christmas classic Home Alone. And I have not started my research yet for this, but I believe Christopher Columbus, not the man that discovered America, but the director, I believe he is from right here in Youngstown as well. So really? I have to look into that a little bit more, but I'm pretty sure he is from Youngstown, Ohio. So, I put on there, Merry Christmas, you filthy animals, and a Happy New Year. We're going to have fun with that. So that'll be good. We try to mix it up on this show and not just stick to sports, but do some other things as well. So that will be coming up in the next couple of weeks. But let's go on to the Browns. And now let's do the Browns by the numbers on the bye week. So 771. If you're watching this, you'll be able to see what it's referring to. But 771 is the number of penalty yards the Cleveland Browns have this season through 12 games, which, if you do the math, that's 64.3 yards a game. If you add up the Browns' top 2 receivers' reception yards this year, David Njoku and Jarvis Landry, they have combined for 763 yards. So their top 2 receivers have not even equaled the sum of their penalty yards, which is very disappointing. And I know Jarvis Landry was out for 4 games, but that's not good. Not good.
How do we stack up against other teams? Are we in the
You know what? That's a great question. I'm going to guess we're towards the top, but I that's a good question. I do not know that number. That number stuck out to me and was mind-boggling. I would guess we're in the top 5 for sure in total yardage. Now, Joe, don't look at the screen, but I want you to I'm going to say a number, 36.8% What do you think we were? So last year in this category, we were 45%. This year, we're 36.8% in this category. What do you think it might
third
be?
Downs.
It is very good. Yeah. Converting third down. So last year we were 45%, which is, kind of middle of the pack or a little bit higher. This year we're way down towards the bottom, 36.8% of the time we're converting third downs.
Okay. I got that. We are fifth
in total penalty yardage.
Yeah. We have ahead of, for number one is Dallas. We're 851, Las Vegas, 839. Carolina 717. Wait, how's that worse? LA Chargers 785, and then us Cleveland.
I wonder if I don't think Carolina has had their bye week yet, so okay. I bet you that's why. I bet it's based on average.
Gotcha.
So that's very interesting, and it's funny to hear the Raiders because no matter who their coach is, it's just like a culture thing with the Raiders. No matter what, they're always right at the top. Right. Yeah, their fans commit a couple penalties a game for them. Another number, the Browns need to work on this bye week. 27th in the NFL, the Browns offense passing on third or fourth down. So only 5 teams are worse than them. Actually, 28, 29, 30, 31, 32. Yeah, 5 teams are worse than them, which is not ideal. So those are numbers the Browns need to work on. And then finally, for a Browns defense that is improving, they're improving overall, but however, they're giving up 166.7. That is the number of rushing yards the Browns defense has allowed per game the last 3 games. And that is against the Baltimore Ravens, who are a very good rushing team, the New England Patriots, who are a very good rushing team, and the Detroit Lions, who are an average rushing team. We'll just say that. So that is something they got to get cleaned up, because you're playing the Ravens again this weekend, and you want to beat them. You're going to have to stop Lamar Jackson and their running attack. So here is a look at the Browns' final 5 games. We are in the final stretch, and it's weird to see they have 2 games in January in the regular season. That just seems odd. But this coming Sunday at home, 1:00. They will take on the Baltimore Ravens. At first look, I think they're a 2.5-point favorite. I have to look into that a little bit more, but the Ravens have lost 3 of their top 4 secondary players. So that is a huge loss for the Baltimore Ravens. They really are going to be susceptible against the pass. I do not know what the weather looks like, but the Browns have to be able to pound the ball, but also make a play. Baker hopefully got healthy during these last couple weeks, and they're going to have to be able to make a couple key passes in this game, which I don't think is asking much for a starting quarterback in this league. The only piece of news I heard today that concerns me a little bit for Sunday is I heard David Njoku was put into the COVID-19 protocol. So hopefully he clears that and is able to get healthy for the game on Sunday, because he is a very important weapon for the Browns. Otherwise, Hooper's going to have to step up. Bryant's going to have to step up. The Browns game against the Raiders has been flexed to a Saturday game. So that will take place obviously a week from this coming Saturday, December 18th. They will then play back-to-back Saturday games, as they will play on Christmas Day in Lambeau Field against the Green Bay Packers, who very tough game. So you look at that schedule, though, all the AFC teams are either equal or right or behind. 3 of those 4 teams are in your division, and the Raiders you're tied with, basically, in the record department at 6-6. So the Browns have to go, in my opinion, you have to go 4-1. I think the Browns are too far behind on tiebreakers if they ended up 9-8. So I think you have to go 4-1 to finish out the season to get to 10-7 to and the Browns, they've made their own bed. They've dug their own hole. A couple of those games could have went either way early in the season. The Chargers, the Steelers game, the Chiefs game, a few other ones got away when they shouldn't have. So the Ravens game this 2 weeks ago. So it's going to be an interesting finish for the Browns, but they have to go 4-1. Joe, looking at that schedule, what do you think? What do you think is what do you think they can do those last 4 games?
So one at a time. I think they'll split the games with the Ravens. They should have the Raiders. Green Bay is going to be rough. Pittsburgh's going to be rough.
That's a Monday night football game too.
So
And
I think they win 3 and lose 2 out of that.
Okay. All right.
That seals the deal.
Okay. All right. And I don't want to dig their grave quite yet at 9-8, but I don't think 9-8 is going to get it done. And you got to keep in mind too, the Bengals are going to want a little bit of revenge because we beat them up in the first matchup. That's the last game of the season, and they're going to probably be playing for their playoff lives. And that matchup against the Steelers is Big Ben's last game in Pittsburgh, or could be his last game in Pittsburgh. So should be a wild finish. Real quick look at the AFC North this past weekend. Baltimore falls to the Pittsburgh Steelers. They lost 20-19. But they also lose their star cornerback, Marlon Humphrey, for the season. I think he tore his ACL, which is, just a common injury. And the Ravens have been decimated with injuries this year, but they still, get the job done. They're just a well-coached football team. But the Ravens, scored a touchdown the last minute of the game, but they decided to go for 2. And, Lamar had Mark Andrews out in the flat. Whether it was the pass or the catch, they just weren't able to convert it. The Steelers win 20-19. So the Ravens drop to 8-4. The Steelers moved to 6-5-1. And again, we'll talk about the Bengals here. The Bengals dropped to 7-5. They lose 41-22 to the Chargers. Listen to this. They were outscored 33-0. 33-0 if you combine the first and fourth quarter scores. So 33-0. Otherwise, they kind of dominated that game, at least in the middle portions. But they host the 49ers on Sunday. The Ravens have the Browns, obviously. The Steelers will take on the Vikings on Thursday Night Football. So that game's coming up very shortly for an old quarterback, and that could be the Vikings coming off a loss to the Detroit Lions. So that could be a very interesting game for both teams, for Minnesota and for Pittsburgh. All right, real quick look at the most interesting numbers from week 13 in the NFL. Last night, the New England Patriots, first of all, they are the number 1 seed right now in the AFC at 9-4. Bill Belichick continues to just get the job done. But they win 14-10 in Buffalo. There was winds up to 50 miles an hour last night, not conducive to kicking or throwing the ball. New England threw the ball 3 times last night. They were 2 of 3 throwing the ball, and they ran it 46 times. That is the fewest passes in an NFL game since 1974, which is pretty incredible. The Arizona Cardinals moved to an NFL best 10-2. So they are the real deal. Whether they have, Kyler Murray or DeAndre Hopkins, they're the real deal. Detroit picks up their first win of the season on a last-second victory over the Vikings. That is their first win in 364 days. So nearly an entire calendar year. 5-game winning streak for the Dolphins and a 5-game losing streak for the Saints. 2 teams going in opposite directions. Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs win, and he moves to 8-0 against the Denver Broncos. Let's see, 90 touchdowns from Tom Brady to Rob Gronkowski. That is the second most in NFL history. Peyton Manning to Marvin Harrison is 112. That is the most all time. And then finally, Jonathan Taylor, Indianapolis's running back, is having a great year, probably the front runner for the NFL MVP, leads the NFL with 19 touchdowns scored this season. So a great season for him. Real quick check in with the AFC playoff picture. So New England sits in the number 1 seed right now, best record in the AFC. They're heading into their bye weekend, but they're 9-4. Tennessee, Baltimore, Kansas City, 8-4. They all lead their divisions. The wild card teams, if the playoffs started today, the LA Chargers, Cincinnati Bengals, and Buffalo Bills all at 7-5. But look at those teams all below there in the hunt, as we say. But Pittsburgh 6-5-1, Indy 7-6, Vegas 6-6, Cleveland 6-6, Denver 6-6, Miami 6-7. Miami was 1-7. They've won 5 in a row. So they were written off for dead. But you can see the 3 teams that are eliminated basically by the numbers are the Houston Texans, Jacksonville Jaguars, and New York Jets. So very, very not pretty. It's just very bunched up. So it's gonna be crazy going down the stretch, and a lot of these teams play each other. So we will see what happens. Now, Joe, one thing we do on this show is tend to talk about the Browns a lot. I tend to not give praise to the Pittsburgh Steelers too much. I hate to use the word praise, but I will give some respect to Ben Roethlisberger's career. He has done, he is the quarterback that has been with one single team the longest in NFL history. He's 18 years, drafted in 2003 out of the University of Miami of Ohio. So a great career, but it's been we speculated this a lot last year that last year we thought might be the end for him, but obviously came back this year. This year, it's kind of made it through the grapevine that this is going to be his last year, at least with the Steelers. And I don't think he's playing with another team. He's kind of, I hate to say washed up, but he is. He's washed. So most likely to retire. He will be a first ballot Hall of Famer, but look at some of these numbers. This was entering Sunday's game. So this doesn't include Sunday stats, but 161, 79 and 1 at one time being this year. 64.5% completion percentage, 62,870 yards, 410 touchdowns, 207 picks. He does have, he has thrown for about 260 yards a game. He's been sacked 540 times. Just imagine taking that beating over the course of your career, 540 times. That's a lot. That's a lot of times to get hit by big, powerful, strong, fast men. And then he does have 19 touchdowns rushing along with 1,374 rushing yards. So he was pretty mobile in his early on. He's put on some pounds, not quite as fleet of foot in his later days, but
you need to do that. If you get sacked that often, you got to be a big dude to take those hits.
Exactly. And that's why you see a lot of times, they don't want quarterbacks my size, 6'1", 195, 200 pounds coming out because, I don't have the frame that can sustain those hits. Baker Mayfield is, he's a little bit shorter, but he is he's built pretty sturdy.
Like an RG3.
Exactly. You've broken in half. Yep. Yeah, they're brittle. And you're not going to be able to last. That's why I think Lamar Jackson, he takes a ton of hits too. And I don't know if that's going to cause some longevity issues with him, so I'd be weary if I was the Baltimore Ravens giving him a long-term
any mobile quarterback that can run and puts himself out there to take those running hits. It's one thing, a pocket hit, but a running hit, so much worse.
No doubt. And that's why you see guys like Russell Wilson, Aaron Rodgers that slide, get down, are smart, and just they understand not to take those hits. It's not a pride thing. It's get down, live to the next down, literally live to the next down.
So if you're a coach for Baker Mayfield, and you said he's a little stockier than these other guys, but when he gets the first down and puts himself out there, I mean, you could take yourself out for a season in some of those instances. Do you coach him to be less of a team player? Yeah.
Yes, 100%. And look at his injury now. That was sustained making a tackle on an interception. There was a funny clip of Teddy Bridgewater just getting out of the way of someone that was coming, because Teddy Bridgewater is a fragile dude. I say that in jest, but
not in comparison to your
well, no, Teddy Bridgewater is probably my size.
Really?
He probably is. But if you're putting yourself out there to take hits, you're not, and Teddy Bridgewater sustained what a lot of people thought was a career-ending injury and made it back. He's like, I'm not doing that again, So, and you look at Baker. Baker's been banged up since week 2, and that's because he made a tackle or attempted at a tackle on a defensive back and hurt his shoulder. And it's been all downhill for the Browns really since then. So you just got to be smart. Get down, be safe. Don't be the hero. Let the other guys do that. That's what they're getting paid for. Just real quick before we switch to some other sports news and hoops news and stuff. Just want to remind you guys to follow us at the 330 Sports Show on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and again, follow us on Youngstown Studio. You can easily go search any podcast on Spotify, iTunes, whatever. Just type in Youngstown Studio and look for my show, Joe and Doug's show, Lisa's show, whatever it might be. There's a ton of content out there for you. Also, our Facebook and YouTube pages. And I real quick too, if anybody, because obviously we tend to be a Browns Buckeyes podcast, but if anyone says, hey, why don't you ever talk about the Steelers? I'm going to refer them back. I just praised Ben Roethlisberger for like 2.5 minutes. So don't ever say I didn't give any love to the Steelers.
Well, and I wanted to say stuff and I kept silent. So that counts for something.
Yes, you did good. You bit your tongue. Very good, Joe. Very good. If you missed it over the weekend, I thought this was interesting from the NBA. The Memphis Grizzlies, who were playing without their best player, beat the Oklahoma City Thunder 152-79, which if you do the quick math, that is a 73-point loss. They were down as much as 78 points in that game. That is the largest point differential loss in NBA history. So
do they have a rule that when you start out scoring in triple digits that they do something?
Yeah, well, in high school basketball, they have that running clock if it gets over 30, I think. But your NBA, man, you gotta
the
suck it up
mercy
and play.
Rule in an NBA team.
You gotta suck
it
up
sit
and play.
2 players.
Exactly. Yeah, we're playing 5-on-3 for this quarter. We'll see how it goes. We'll let these guys come back from 78 down. Real quick check in with the Cleveland Cavaliers. Unfortunately, the last 2 games they lost Sunday and Monday. Really great game. Came down to the final possession against the Utah Jazz, lost 109-108. And last night, it was a close game in the fourth quarter, but fell to the world champion Milwaukee Bucks, 112-104. Before that, they were on a 4-game winning streak. They are still 13-12, having a really nice season. Darius Garland, 19.3 points a game, leading the team in assists with over 7 a game. You have the NBA's most likely rookie of the year in Evan Mobley. He won the rookie of the month for the month of November. You have Jared Allen playing like an all-star. And Joe, listen to this. Yes. Kevin Love is giving you some really good minutes off the bench. Last night, he had 15 points, 5 threes, played a really nice game. Still probably one of your best passing, players on the team.
Are you going to retract your feeling? I mean, are you now upgrading Kevin
No, I
Love
still want to trade him.
All right.
But the guy makes $30 million a year. Like, he makes as much as probably Mobley, Garland, and Allen make combined. And, those are your 3 best players. And, so it is what it is. But
what's he have to do to make you fall back in love with them?
Oh, I was never in love with them, but he will always have a part of my heart because he was on that 2016 championship team. But, the time has passed for Kevin Love.
Okay.
I will say this. He is signed for the rest of this season and all of next season. However, in the NBA, the way the contracts work, I don't know if it's equal money. Like, it was 4 years, 120 million. So I don't know if it's 30, 30, 30, 30, or, they broke it up, gave him more at the front or more at the back, whatever it might be. But those contracts that are expiring are very valuable in the NBA, the way teams like money coming off their books. So he will become a very valuable trade asset into this offseason and next year. So I think the Cavs really are most likely to keep him around this year or work a buyout. But I think his contract for a trade piece comes into effect in the offseason. So I think with this roster, and you have 3 or 4 really nice pieces to build around going forward, your best players are 20, 21, and 23. Those are your best players. Those are the guys you want around as your cornerstones. Kevin Love's not a cornerstone, but if he can be a good teammate for the rest of this year, give you some production, give you some value, be a kind of a coach off the floor and a leader on the floor, then I'm totally fine with him sticking around, because this Cavs team is not built right now for a championship, but they could be 2-3 years away from that. And, if they continue to get better and better and better for the next 2 years, 3 years, Kevin Love can be an integral part of that this season for the rebuild process. But the Cavs I don't see why they couldn't make the playoffs this year. They are right in the thick of things. They play the best teams in the NBA right down to the wire. They've beaten a lot of the best NBA teams. So we'll see. So with that said, long story short, Kevin Love, as long as he's doing his job, I'm okay with him. So
All right.
Is that good? Is that okay?
That's good.
Okay. All right. So a couple quick other basketball notes real quick. Ohio State moves up to number 21 in the coaches poll. Purdue, for the first time in men's basketball history, is the number 1 team in the country. Ohio State, if you remember, knocked off number 1 Duke last week. So Duke falls to number 3. Just rounding out the top 5, you got Purdue, you have Baylor, Duke, UCLA, and Gonzaga. So, a lot of familiar foes up there at the top, but the Buckeyes sitting at 21, have played a pretty tough schedule already and will continue that going forward. I also do want to check in. We don't do this often, and, I kind of feel bad for it because being the 330 Sports Show, we're right down here in Youngstown, Ohio. I don't give enough love to our local team. So the Youngstown State, we're going to start with the Youngstown State men's basketball team. They're coached by Jared Calhoun. He was a guest on our show last year. I have talked with him. We're either going to get him in studio or we're going to go to a practice or something during the season and get him and maybe some of his players on our show. But right now they're sitting at 4-3. They are 2-0 in conference. They are led by Michael Alcucci with 15.3 points a game, 7.9 rebounds a game, and Tevin Olison with 13.6 points a game. YSU Penguins doing some nice things. They got some conference games coming up. They got a big game against Central Michigan coming up. So good luck to the Penguins as they move forward. And let's check in with the Lady Penguins because they are having an absolutely amazing start to their season. They are 7-0, 4-0 in conference, and they're in a very, very tough conference. Lily Ritz is leading the team with 18.4 points per game. Paige Shy at 10.7 points per game. Chelsea Olsen, 10.6 points per game. And Malia Magestro, she is a local kid from just across the border in Hermitage, Kennedy Catholic. Her dad is the high school basketball coach at Kennedy Catholic, but she is averaging 10.4 points a game, and she is 12 of 23 shooting the three-point ball this year. YSU is the Lady Penguins are off to a great start, and we wish Coach Barnes and his team a good luck the rest of the season. I've also spoken to Coach Barnes. And we look forward to hopefully getting him or some of his players in studio, or as well, maybe doing a tag team with Coach Calhoun and Coach Barnes over there at the Beagley Center. So we'll keep you informed on that with what we're doing with that. Just a few other notes before we close out here. So unfortunately, sad news to pass along. This is the unfortunate world of horse racing, but the you might remember the Kentucky Derby winning horse Medina Spirit there was like some drug issues where he won, but then they pulled the title. They gave it to the second place horse, but Medina Spirit still, technically the Kentucky Derby winning horse collapsed and passed away after a workout in California this weekend. So, to me, you don't know these horses, but it's still sad when it's an animal and, kind of like a helpless animal and, you feel bad. So, rest in peace to Medina Spirit. So with that said, kind of a sad note, let's end with a funny note. So Joe, I don't want you to read the screen. Okay. I don't want you to read the screen. Okay. But let me ask you this. Did you ever watch the show, The Jetsons?
Yes.
Okay. You remember, you give me the basic concept of what you remember from it.
Oh, I know some characters' names. I mean, they lived in the future and they had flying cars and they lived in this bubble tower at the top. They had a robot named Rosie.
Yes. Very good. Okay. So George Jetson, the dad, the patriarch of the family, was born. Let me double check to make sure I'm right. He was born August 27th, 2022.
This coming up here.
This coming up year, which means if you do the math, he would have been conceived this past weekend. So to gross you out a little bit, George Jetson's parents got it on this past weekend, and future George Jetson will be born August 27th, 2022.
Is it a character that you would know through the cartoon? Did they announce his parents?
That's a good question. I don't know. Like, I remember it, but I never got into it.
Okay.
Like, I remember there was that song, Jane, his wife, his boy Elroy, daughter Judy. Remember that?
Yes.
So,
I do.
like, I remember that vaguely, but I don't remember the show. Like, again, I know the premise like you. It was in the future. I think they used to play it on like Nickelodeon or TBS or one of those channels. But again, I think it was probably like we were probably really young and it was a little bit before our time, but we kind of caught the tail end of it.
Okay.
But I had to point that out. I saw
somebody figured out that they were doing the nasty right about now. Congratulations.
So yeah,
spoiling the childhood of all people.
But we're old enough and slightly mature enough to know. No, never mind. No, take that part away. So I thought we'd end on something fun there. On Thursday's show, just a real quick thing with Thursday's show. Last week we did a couple buddies of mine and I did a draft of the best, because it's like award season now in college football. You're going to be giving out the Heisman Trophy and, the best linemen, the best receivers, this and that, and then you got the bowl season after that. So we figured it's award season, right? So let's give our awards and let's do a draft of the best names in college football. So that will be part of Thursday's show. Yes. So, okay. And we had talked about this before, that skit from Key and Peele. And the one, they're like Jambalaya McNurgan whatever. But they got that idea when they saw the Browns draft Barkevious Mingo. And he's just like, that is the greatest name I've ever heard. And so I took that and I'm like, you know what? Let's do a little research. So me and a couple buddies did a little research and we came up with some pretty great names. And now these are all active players this season in college football. And there are some that are like, I can't believe that's a real name. So you guys will have fun with that, listening to that on Thursday. We're also going to give you some sports updates and we'll also talk about, the Browns and Ravens preview and other things like that. So with that said, for Joe, I'm Justin. Everybody have a nice day and we will see you guys on Thursday.
Thank you for listening to this show on Youngstown Studio. If you like our programming, we invite you to subscribe to our YouTube channel, follow our Facebook page, or subscribe to your favorite podcast platform like iTunes or Spotify. This is original Youngstown content, and we would appreciate you sharing the videos and the word about it.